Infinitives in Targum Pseudo-Jonathan. If we turn to Biblical Aramaic for Biblical Interpreters, page 121 and 169, we find these charts which compare the infinitive forms, again in Biblical Aramaic, to the participle forms on the bottom. Now we notice a nice reading diagnostic was that if there's a mem prefix, it's an infinitive, versus, as you see on the bottom, if there's a mem prefix in the derived stems, the form we're looking at has got to be a participle. So that was very helpful in Biblical Aramaic. Now let's arrange the chart to just have the G, D, and C stems and their reflexive equivalents next to them, and compare to the infinitives in Targum Onkelos. Very similar, with the difference being that there's a preference for an aleph prefix, as in aphel, versus the hey prefix, as in hafel. We had seen this before in a special episode. Now let's look at Targum Pseudo-Jonathan and its infinitives. Now on this chart, it seems like the only difference is a preference for comets aleph suffixes instead of comets hey, although there are comets aleph suffixes on infinitives in Onkelos as well. So that seems to be a very simple difference between late Jewish literary Aramaic and Jewish literary Aramaic. But in Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, there are also infinitives that take the forms that are more commonly seen in Jewish Palestinian Aramaic. And we see immediately the main difference here, which is that every stem carries the mem prefix. Now, other than that, there aren't a great many differences, but that is important to note, that we can't immediately assume that because there is a mem prefix and it's a derived stem that we're looking at a participle in Targum Pseudo-Jonathan. So again, there's a mix of JLA and JPA style infinitives, which we can see here in Deuteronomy 30:20. This is on the left a JLA type infinitive of kof, beit, lamed. It's the same consonants as we see in Onkelos. Now in Deuteronomy 26:17, there is a mem there for the kof, beit, lamed infinitive that's the equivalent of the one in Onkelos, but has the JPA form. So this is just to show that as we're reading in Targum Pseudo-Jonathan, we have to be aware that there are infinitives of the JLA type as well as the JPA type present in the text, mixed together. So let's return to our reading of Targum Pseudo-Jonathan.